You don't have to show that that hog is damaging your property. You can kill a feral hog. Obviously subject to other laws. You can't trespass. You got to have permission to be there.
State Senator Hughes making it easier for people to kill the nuisance wildlife. No questions asked, no hunting license needed.
It's 2 in the morning on a ranch in South Texas. The screen is black and white, thermal, nothing but empty field, glowing faint blue against the cold ground. Then, movement. Not 5 animals, not 10. Dozens. A river of glowing white bodies pouring across the frame like a single organism moving through the brush. Above them, silent, invisible against the stars, hovers a drone. This is the footage that just leaked out of a private Texas ranch. Thermal video showing exactly how the state now hunts down one of its worst ecological disasters, after dark, while it sleeps. And the real story behind it is stranger and more clever than most people assume. Because Texas didn't just approve this for fun, Texas had to. The hogs were winning. To understand why anyone strapped thermal cameras to a fleet of drones and sent them out hunting at night, you have to understand the scale of the problem first. Texas is home to an estimated 4 million feral hogs, more than any other state in the country. Together, they cause roughly $500 million in agricultural damage every single year, not once, every year. And the math behind that number is brutal. A single sow can produce 2 litters annually, up to a dozen piglets each time. Left unchecked, one breeding pair can theoretically multiply into over 1,000 animals within just a few years. Wildlife biologists have run the models, and the results are almost absurd. Hunters can remove 70% of a hog population in a single year, and the population still grows. They root up cropland overnight, turning a flat, plantable field into something that looks like it's been shelled. They wreck fences, foul water sources, and outcompete native species, deer, quail, wild turkey, for food and habitat. A single sounder can wipe out a rancher's freshly planted seed in one pass and be gone before sunrise, leaving nothing but churned mud as evidence they were ever there. Ranchers were watching their livelihoods get torn apart, literally, acre by acre. And the old tools weren't cutting it, because hogs are smart. They're nocturnal. They've learned generation after generation to smell a truck engine or a flashlight beam from a quarter-mile away and simply vanish into thick brush where no vehicle can follow. So Texas got creative, and honestly, a little wild. Back in the 2000s, the state started letting licensed operators shoot hogs from helicopters. It worked, sort of. But it was loud, it was expensive, sometimes running over $1,000 an hour, and hogs learned fast to bolt the second they heard rotor blades. So in 2017, Texas lawmakers approved something even stranger: hunting feral hogs from hot air balloons. The theory was simple. A balloon is quiet, it's stable, and it gives a shooter a steadier line than a shaking helicopter cabin. It actually passed. Then in 2019, the state went further and dropped the licensing requirements almost entirely for hog hunts on private land, opening the door to more shooters, faster. But none of it was enough. Helicopters scared the herds before shooters could even get close. Balloons drifted with the wind and couldn't track a moving sounder. What Texas actually needed was something that could see everything in total darkness without the hogs ever knowing it was there. That's when wildlife officials turned to an unlikely tool already sitting in warehouses across the state: consumer-grade thermal drones. Before we get into how that actually works, and the leaked footage that's currently splitting hunters and animal rights groups across the internet, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. This story gets stranger from here, and you're going to want to see where it goes. It wasn't a simple switch to flip. Federal law, specifically the Airborne Hunting Act, makes it a crime to shoot, or even harass, wildlife from an aircraft, drones included, unless a state specifically writes an exception into law. For years, Texas regulations only covered the older methods, helicopters and balloons, simply because when those rules were written, consumer drones barely existed. So wildlife enforcement pushed for a rule change. In 2022, the Texas Parks and Wildlife Commission proposed something narrow and specific. Let permitted operators fly thermal drones at night, purely to locate feral hogs for hunters waiting nearby. It was not universally welcomed. Fair chase hunters called it an unfair advantage, like hunting with X-ray vision. Wildlife advocates worried operators would end up harassing deer, coyotes, or anything else that wandered into frame, since hunting any other wildlife with a drone remains illegal in Texas at any hour, no exceptions. Early field trials were messy too. Cheap thermal units returned grainy, low-resolution footage that turned every warm-blooded animal into the same fuzzy white blob. More than one operator misidentified a deer as a hog from 300 feet up in pitch dark and had to scrub a hunt mid-flight to avoid a costly mistake. Batteries died mid-search on cold nights. Signal dropped over dense brush. A handful of permit holders got fined for flying outside the approved hours or straying past their property line chasing a sounder that wouldn't stop moving. For a while, it genuinely looked like the whole idea might collapse under its own controversy before it ever got off the ground. Critics on both sides, hunters and conservationists, agreed on almost nothing else, but they agreed this was a mess. But here's the wild part, the part that never makes the headlines, and the part that the leaked footage actually reveals once you know what you're looking at. The drone doesn't kill a single hog. It's not allowed to. Under Texas's rules, mounting a weapon on a drone and using it to shoot an animal is explicitly, flatly illegal. The state was blunt about that when it wrote the regulation. So what's actually happening in that footage everyone's arguing about? The drone is the spotter, the eye in the sky. Its thermal camera picks out heat signatures moving through total darkness, and the pilot radios exact positions down to gunners waiting on the ground, or, in some operations, to shooters circling in a helicopter nearby. The hogs never hear an engine, they never see a light. For once in their lives, nothing is chasing them, they're just found. Watch the leaked clip closely, and you can see it unfold almost in real time. A sounder of hogs, dozens of glowing shapes, moving across a black cornfield, completely unaware they're being tracked from 300 feet up. The operator calls out numbers, direction, distance, and within minutes, the group is gone. Removed by hunters the hogs never even heard coming. It's not a drone strike in the way the phrase makes you picture it. It's something quieter and honestly more unsettling, a coordinated silent hunt where the prey never gets a single warning sign. Since the rule change, ranchers across South Texas report clearing entire sounders in a single night, animals that used to take weeks of trail cameras and stakeouts to even locate. For an industry losing $500 million a year to hog damage, that's not a minor upgrade. That's the difference between a working ranch and a failing one. Cropland that used to get shredded overnight is recovering. Ground nesting birds, quail, wild turkey, get a real shot at nesting season without hundreds of hungry, opportunistic omnivores raiding every nest they find. Native plant cover that hogs would normally tear apart searching for roots and grubs has time to re-establish itself, which ripples outward to everything from pollinators to small mammals that depend on that ground cover surviving spring. And the technology keeps getting cheaper. What used to require a $10,000 thermal rig now fits into drones an average landowner can actually afford, which means this isn't just a tool for big operations with helicopter budgets anymore. A rancher with a few hundred acres and a weekend's worth of practice can run the same kind of operation that used to require chartering a helicopter crew. Texas regulators haven't stopped fine-tuning it either. As recently as December 2025, wildlife officials clarified an entirely separate drone rule, banning drones from dropping fishing bait, just to keep closing loopholes in the same spirit. This is a state actively still writing the rulebook in real time. And other hog-plagued states, Florida, Oklahoma, stretches of the Southeast, are watching closely. Because if Texas can prove an invasive species explosion can be fought with eyes in the sky instead of just more bullets on the ground, that changes wildlife management everywhere, for more than just hogs. Which brings up the bigger question sitting underneath all of this. We built thermal imaging and aerial surveillance for war, and somewhere along the way, quietly, without much fanfare, Texas repurposed that same technology into one of the most effective conservation tools in modern wildlife management. Not to harm an ecosystem, but to protect one from a species we introduced in the first place, centuries ago, and never fully reckoned with. The hogs didn't choose to be here. Every generation since has been cleaning up a decision none of them made. So maybe the real question isn't whether flying thermal cameras over dark fields feels strange to watch. Maybe it's this. When the damage we've caused finally outpaces what our old methods can fix, are we willing to get uncomfortable with the solution? Would you want a drone like this flying over your own land at 2 a.m.? Let me know down in the comments.